Trailing Thoughts from Bumby Path. This is such a friendly neighborhood because people have been aggressively waving at me a lot today. What is that sound I keep hearing behind me? Oh, I'm dragging a child's kite. How long have I been dragging that for? And why didn't any of these nice people tell me?
I've been waiting for this for weeks. I gotta tell you, I am so ready to do this. I even have the bed ready.
What?
So when you get home, we can get really dirty.
Gotta
go. Hey! Here you go. With all this compost, we're gonna have the best plants in the neighborhood.
Trailing Thoughts from Airport Gap. If planes were like people, would jets be considered the jocks? Would they throw hangar parties when their parents were out of town? If one plane said to the other, "I just flew in from the coast, and boy, are my arms tired," would it be considered a joke or just normal conversation?
Sometimes people just say, "Can you hold my hand?" And you make that difference. And you're helping them get through a bad day.
Good afternoon and welcome to the November 13th, 2023 meeting of the Orlando City Council. We're going to begin today's proceedings with the invocation of the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Stewart.
Will you bow your heads with me, please, if you like? Dear wise and loving Father, during this season of Thanksgiving, let me say thank you on behalf of those who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself and for the measure of health. We need to fulfill our callings for sustenance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in the useful work and in the honor of bearing appropriateness responsibilities. Thank you for loving us, even so, from your boundless and gracious nature. I pray for this mayor and the many layers of our city officials, for those volunteer boards that provide so much guidance for this council, and in particular for this assembled council. I'm asking that you graciously grant us wisdom to govern amid the conflict, interests, and issues before us, a sense of welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is doing good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there's honest disagreement, and a personal peace in our lives, and the joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before us today. Please give us the assurance that we would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in the great city of Orlando. In your blessed name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and make a determination of a quorum, please?
Commissioner Gray,
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Here.
Commissioner Stewart,
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan, Commissioner Hill,
Here.
Commissioner Burns,
Here.
Mayor Dyer.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum with all members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's take up the minutes from the agenda review and city council meetings of October the 23rd, 2023. Motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Well, that brings us right into the mayor's update, and I want to start by congratulating Commissioners Ortiz, Sheehan, and Burns, who will all be returning to the city council with 4 new 4-year terms. Commissioner Ortiz was unopposed, and the other 2 won by a substantial margin. So congratulations to you all. I look forward to serving with you and Commissioner Gray, Stewart, and Hill as we continue to do the work for Orlando's residents. Congratulations. Okay, you may have noticed that the whole right wing of our council chambers is filled with black and gold.
Nice.
And that would be the UCF student government who is doing their city government day here. They were at the courthouse this morning and they're sharing with us this afternoon. So they're going to spend the rest of the afternoon with city staff exploring ways that we can partner with them. And if you look at some of the faces in the crowd, you may have seen them storming the field on Saturday in the wake of UCF's 45-3 first home Big 12 victory. Congratulations. So go Knights. Thank you for being here with us today. I had an opportunity to spend just a few minutes with them and answer some very pointed questions. Okay. It's hard to believe, but I've been watching Christmas commercials on TV already, and we just got past Halloween. But we do have a lot on our agenda coming up in terms of events for the community to enjoy. So the first of which will be the tree lighting ceremony on Friday, December 1st. And backed by popular demand is our holiday drone show, which will be at Lake Eola Park on December 23rd. We have a holiday light stroll, a Merry Market in downtown Orlando that'll be open every weekend in December. It's a lot happening, so if you want to know the rest, go to orlando.com/events. And then finally on my list of things is Commissioner Stewart's birthday will happen prior to the next commission meeting, so as is our custom, Let's give him a happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Commissioner. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody keep their day jobs, I think, on the singing front there. Okay, with that, we will move on to the consent agenda, and the consent agenda is a number of items that are acted upon through a single vote of council. We give each of our commissioners an opportunity to comment on items that are on the consent agenda, as well as update you on happenings around their districts. We rotate the order that we do that. Commissioner Stewart is first up today. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor, and let me also say congratulations to you on your election, and look forward to serving with you. So let's give the Mayor a round of applause, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, congratulations to Commissioner Ortiz and Sheehan and Bakari, Commissioner Burns, I'm sorry. We're looking forward to continuing. Like the Mayor said, this is a good team. I want to keep it going. A couple of things I'd like just to mention from the community. One is we had a great tour of homes from the College Park Neighborhood Association yesterday. 530 tickets sold in advance, and then a bunch more that showed up there. So I'm excited about that, seeing that's coming back to us, and we appreciate that. The Jazz Fest from the College Park Main Street was there. We had 7,000 or 8,000 people that came through downtown College Park. The fun part about those events is that it gives us a chance to highlight one of our classic neighborhoods, and I appreciate that. Congratulations to Baldwin Park on their Taste of Baldwin Park as well. They had to close the streets down, had a great event over there. And then also want to say a special thank you to Lake Highland. Each year they do a veteran salute on Friday before Veterans Day, and I was honored to be there again and got a chance to see some great old friends who happen to be veterans as well. So it was good to be there. And also, Mayor, let me say thank you to you and the entire Veterans Day committee and the Veterans Council that you've got. I thought the parade went great, and I appreciate that. We couldn't ask for a better day, and I appreciate the work that they do and the highlight that we have for our veterans. It was wonderful walking the crowd and just saying thank you to people in the crowd. They really just appreciated being there. On upcoming events, this Friday night, we have a couple of really important events. One happens to be the lighting of the OUC holiday sign over in Ivanhoe Village. We'll do that at 5:30, and then we'll all kind of leave from there and go have a hamburger and go watch Edgewater beat Jones again. Edgewater and Jones are playing again in the districts. I can't believe it. It scares everybody from Jones to death. Or maybe everybody from Edgewater to death, one of the two, yes. It's going to be a great way to bring our community together. Really excited about it. It's over at Edgewater, 7:30 on Friday night for the I guess it's the regional semifinals, that's what they call it now. So Friday is the Thanksgiving seniors lunch over at the Rosemont Neighborhood Center. Jingle Eve starts next Saturday. We're just beginning to start moving the great things that go on in our community. Small Business Saturday comes up 2 days before my birthday. Just wanted y'all to know that. And then Winter Wonderland Extravaganza starts at Baldwin Park Elementary on December 2nd. And the Holiday on the Drive is December 7th. And then we also have the return of the lights over at Blue Gardens. So if you haven't got a reason to go out over the next holiday season, please take an opportunity to go out and get a chance to enjoy that. On the agenda today, Mayor, I've got a couple of things, but I'll cover some of those when it comes to time. But all the rest of the items on there, I'm excited to support. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer, and I also want to congratulate my colleagues, Mayor Dyer, Commissioner Burns, and Commissioner Ortiz. Look forward to our continued service. And for me, the tenor of this campaign was pretty negative, unfortunately. I got attacked pretty good, and then there was also some attacks on the city staff. And I just want to thank the city staff for the great job that you do. Public service is about service. It's picking up trash, it's cleaning up the roads, it's fixing the street lights, paying the power bill for the traffic lights, wastewater, police, fire, all the things that people take for granted every single day, because you guys do it, you guys and gals, and I want to thank you very much because we help people. I'm grateful to all of you, and I look forward to our continued service to Orlando as the longest-serving elected official in Orlando with 7 terms. So thank you very much. I appreciate you very much. And we had the Swan Roundup over the weekend. We have 68 swans at beautiful Lake Eola Park. I want to thank Patty Peekins for managing the volunteers. She's actually retiring this year. She's 84 years young, and she's decided it's time to pass the torch. So I want to thank Patty for all the work that she does with our beautiful swans. And I just want to say go Knights as well. I'm also an alumna, so appreciate y'all being here today. On the agenda today, like seeing Lasercraft continuing the Orlando Stops Red Light Cameras program. I think it's very important for public safety. The downtown South Main Street contract is on the agenda today, item C15. On item H2, the aggressive driving subgrant from FDOT for overtime to get some of this, to get some of these knuckleheads that are driving aggressively in our neighborhoods. And item J1, best foot forward for pedestrian safety. Very, very important programs on the agenda today. And that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer, and congratulations on a landslide victory to yourself and Commissioner Burns, along with Commissioner Sheehan. Congratulations to being unopposed, right? It just says something about the city when you win those type of races that big, that they're satisfied with the work that we're doing here in the city, and it's moving along. So I look forward to serving 4 more years with you all. The only thing about you all winning is now snakes for me. So here we go. With that being said, I'm not going to say a lot. I want you all to keep my family in prayer. Last night we had to take my niece off the ventilator. She was 32 years old, died of cancer. So, well, we're public servants, so we come back to work. On Tuesday, November 21st, starting at 9 a.m., I'm partnering again with the help of Orlando City Soccer and Publix, where they'll be helping give out Thanksgiving meals to almost 1,000 residents here in the city of Orlando, and that's the 21st at 9 a.m. Then later that afternoon, we'll be partnering with Second Harvest and IGNA, the Muslim community, where they will be helping give away turkeys and meats and vegetables and produce at the Northwest Center, and you can drive up or walk up, and that's going to be from 1 until 5. And of course, it's Classic Weekend. OBCU. Be politically correct here. And we're going to, along with myself and Commissioner Burns, we'll be having a community breakfast on the Thursday, Commissioner? Friday morning at the Citrus Club. And it's for community leaders and electeds. And there'll be a panel regarding a host of different subject matters that's happening in our communities. That is free. You can call my office or Commissioner Burns' office to RSVP. And then that evening, I will be over in your neck of the woods, Commissioner, over at Grand Avenue, where I will be hosting the conversation. And the conversation will be with community members regarding finance, entrepreneurship, affordable housing, mental health, and substance abuse. And that you can register at also call my office. And I'd like to thank Wells Fargo and the Paramore Main Street and the West Lakes Main Street, along with Florida Citrus Sports, for assisting with that. That following Saturday, November 18th, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., we will have something that's called The Yard that mimics college campuses, and it will be with the Alphas, AKAs, Kappas, Omegas, Deltas, Sigmas, Zetas, Iotas. What's the other one, Commissioner? What's the other one? I forgot. That symbol. I was in the military. I never went to Sigma Gamma Rho. And happy Veterans Day to the veterans here on this council. Happy Veterans Day to you, Commissioner Grant, Commissioner Ortiz. Go Navy.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burns.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And I also would like to say congratulations to my colleagues, you, Mayor, and my fellow commissioners for your reelection. I look forward to serving with you all the next 4 years. And I will have to say it's been a great 4 years. I've learned a lot, so I appreciate the guidance that I've received and the support from this commission. On yesterday at the Dr. James R. Smith Center, my office partnered with He Got Up and the Orlando Serve Foundation for a Thanksgiving giveaway. We were able to serve over 400 residents in District 6. So just like to say thank you to He Got Up, the Smith Center staff, as well as the many volunteers that we had to come out and help distribute these Thanksgiving packages. Also this Thursday at the Grand Avenue Neighborhood Center, we are partnering with Route 7 for yet another Thanksgiving giveaway starting at 5 o'clock. So it's a first come, first serve. Also, our next mobile office hours, November the 29th at the L. Claudia Allen Senior Center. This is a time for residents to come and meet with myself and my staff to talk about issues that may be impacting them, but we continue to push our housing rehab program. So we have information about that program, and then we also help individuals complete those applications. So if you know of anyone who's interested in learning more about the city's housing rehab program, please tell them to meet us at L. Claudia Allen starting at 9 o'clock on the 29th. Also on Saturday, November 4th, I had the pleasure of attending the Central Florida Black Journalists Scholarship Gala. We celebrated their 40th anniversary, and which honored several journalists in our community for their dedication and hard work. And the last thing, I would just like to congratulate the District 6 residents who completed and graduated from the Mayor's City Academy. So thank you, Mayor, for conducting this. They all had a great time and learned a lot. So those residents were Amora Evans, Miss Dorothy Jackson, Dr. Janice Choice, Miss Jeanette Santos, Miss Susan Garcia, Miss Susan Williams, and Miss Wanda Smith. So thank you to those residents who took their own time to go through this program. And so the residents who actively participate are informed, educated, and empowered to become better citizens of the city of Orlando. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. And most of my colleagues have mentioned everything I was going to mention. So with that, events in District 1 are on our website and social media. And so with that, I will yield to Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, let me start by saying congratulations, Mayor. Congratulations, Commissioner Sheehan, Commissioner Burns. Great achievement, great win. I want to also thank my community, because in our case, the way I see it is, it was a team achievement. It was not me, it was working with our community being present in everything we do, and so I'm very thankful, and I'm blessed to have all of them, all the people that live in my district. So if you want to feel that experience, you can move to my district. Yes, it's going to be, you're welcome to. Just kidding. Just kidding. Anyhow, so, on Wednesday, November 1st, I joined Mayor Dyer, Orlando Fire Department Chief Zalazar. I'm on the OFD leadership and HJ High Construction to check out the progress of Fire Station 11. I'm excited for the Beast of the East to be completed and to have our firefighters back in a state-of-the-art facility that would greatly impact their quality of life and service they provide to District 2 residents. I want to wish Colonial Flores a happy 70th anniversary operating as a small business in the city of Orlando. Commissioner Sheehan, congratulations. I know they're in your district. Their dedication to providing top quality customer service and flower arrangements to the city of Orlando residents is extraordinary. Small businesses like theirs are what makes the city beautiful, a great place to be. On Monday, October 30th, I attended the grand opening of Club Fort Fitness. I'm excited for residents to have a venue they can utilize that promotes health and wellness for everyone. And this is not a commercial, but they're open 24/7. Anyhow, Thanksgiving Day is approaching. It's the beginning of the holidays, holiday season, and by all means, there are many things we have to be thankful for. We live in a very rich nation, Yet there are many homeless people in our community. There's also the issue of mental health, and with many of our homeless, there are wars around the world that affect all of us, one way or another. So let's take some time to reflect about that during these days and pray. Let's try to practice a little more tolerance. And as my aide, Megan Shaver, says, let's be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone. And I move to accept the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Okay, so that takes us through the consent agenda. Without objection, we will recess the city council meeting and convene the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. See, I think, David, I can handle the first two, which are minutes. So number one is CRA meeting minutes from October 9th, 2023. Who's the motion? Commissioner Hill. Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. CRA meeting minutes from October 23rd, 2023. Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. All right, David, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, and good afternoon, Commissioners. Item 3 before the CRA is a facade grant for 530 Lake Avenue. It's a home kind of on the south side of 408 in the CRA doing some painting. They're eligible for 50% of the cost of their work. Their entire cost is $11,500. So the amount being offered from the CRA is $5,750, and it was recommended for approval on October 9th by the Facade Review Committee.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, number 4.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 4, this is our first restaurant program agreement. This one for Allure Orlando LLC. This is a restaurateur coming to Orlando from South Africa. They're looking to activate 13 West Pine, which is the property just to the west of the lot that we recently leased at 30 South Orange. So we're happy for some additional activation in that area. They've signed an approximately 10-year lease for that space, and are doing just about $350,000 of improvements. Based on the program, they are eligible for $75,000 in build-out assistance as well as $50,000 for the first year's rental assistance for a total incentive of $125,000.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Number 5, this is another restaurant program agreement, this one for Mango Verde Fresh Corporation. This is a kind of a juice store. They actually have a location in the Altamont Springs Mall, but we're happy to welcome them into downtown Orlando. They're going to be on the first floor of the Radius building right on Roslyn. So they are eligible for $75,000 in tenant improvements and $25,000 in first-year rental assistance for a total incentive of $100,000, and their estimated cost of investment is just about $200,000.
Vote approved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And number 6.
Thank you. The final item on the CRA is another restaurant incentive, this one for Bowspot. Bowspot actually previously operated in the Soto area, but is now looking to open right at 54 West Church Street. So if you think of the location where Jersey Mike's used to be, they've signed a 10-year lease for about a 2,100 square foot space. They'll have 40 seats there. So we're excited to welcome them to downtown Orlando. The property owner is contributing $83,880 towards their build-out, so we're able to match that through the program. In addition, they're eligible for $50,000 of first year's rental assistance for a total incentive of $133,880.
Vote approved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
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 Great job, David.
Those opposed? And so the motion carries. So David, everybody remembers, this is just one meeting since we adopted the new restaurant incentive program, which was to incentivize restaurants to locate in the CRA, specifically downtown and Paramore area, and it looks like it's fairly successful already after 3. Is there a lot of interest and discussion from people wanting to use the program and move restaurants downtown?
Yeah, so thank you. Since the approval, we've had a lot of activity. You see that before you today, Mayor. So we're off to a fast start, and we have hopefully a lot more to come in the near future.
Okay, great. Any further business to come before the CRA?
That is all.
Okay, then without objection, we will we'll actually adjourn the CRA meeting, and we will reconvene the city council meeting. And we will move to new business, and we have one item there, which is electing 2 mayors pro tem for 1-year terms beginning in January of '24 and running through December of '24. So why don't we take the mayor pro tem 1, and I will open the floor for nominations. Commissioner Ortiz.
Mayor, I believe is Commissioner Hill's turn to be Mayor Pro Tem, so I nominate her.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. If there are no further nominations without objection, I will close the nominations. Call for a vote on Commissioner Hill. All in favor indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and so it's confirmed unanimously. Now I will take a motion for Mayor Pro Tem 2. Commissioner Stewart.
Mayor, I think in the order that we use, we have Commissioner Burns, I think, is the next one. I'd like to nominate Commissioner Bernard Burns.
Okay, motion for Commissioner Burns. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. If there are no additional nominations without objection, I'll close the nominations and call for the vote on Commissioner Burns. All in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And so the motion carries. Congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem 1 Hill and Mayor Pro Tem 2 Burns.
Thank you.
Okay. So under hearings, we have the rescission order of the Jetport, which we at agenda review this morning deferred that item, as well as the first item under hearings ordinances, second reading, which is a companion item to the hearing item that that I'm referring to with the Jetport. So we will move on to hearings ordinances, second reading, number 2, Madam Clerk.
Mayor, I think 1 and 2.
1 and 2 on
So we should move to
3.
Number 3, okay.
Ordinance number 2023-30, an ordinance of the City of Orlando granting West Palm Karting LLC, DBA Redbox Plus Orlando, a non-exclusive franchise to provide roll-off container collection and disposal of solid waste within the City of Orlando, outlining franchisees' duties and providing the terms and conditions under which such franchise shall operate, providing for severability and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Madam Clerk, do I have any cards requesting to speak before the council on this item?
No speakers, Mayor.
No speakers. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Okay, just to make clear, what we did there was, it was the hearing as well as the first 2 ordinances, number 1 and 2, that we had deferred until a future meeting. So number 4.
Ordinance number 2023-36, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's growth management plan to change the future land use map designation for certain land generally located at the northwest intersection of South Ivanhoe Boulevard, East and North Magnolia Avenue, comprised of 2.4 acres of land more or less, from downtown activity center to public recreation and institutional, changing the property zoning designation from downtown metropolitan activity center with the traditional city overlay district to public use with the traditional city overlay district, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Ortiz. Madam Clerk,
No speakers, Mayor.
discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And number 5,
Ordinance number 2023-39, an ordinance amending Article 7 of Chapter 2 of the Code of the City of Orlando entitled Administration by amending Section 2.38 to clarify when Mayor Pro Tem shall be elected, providing for codification, severability, Scrivener's error, and an effective date.
So move.
Second.
motion by Commissioner Burns, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Madam Clerk?
No speakers, Mayor.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 6,
Ordinance number 2023-44, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the Lake Highland Preparatory School Main Campus Plan Development Zoning Ordinance for property generally located on the north side of East Mark Street and on the east and west side of Highland Avenue and on the west side of North Eola Drive, and comprised of approximately 22.53 acres of land, to include a master signage and fencing plan, and to amend the special land development regulations of the plan development, providing for amendment of the city's official zoning maps, providing for a disclaimer, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Ortiz. Madam Clerk?
No speakers, Mayor.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Okay then, let's move to ordinances on first reading, number 1.
Ordinance number 2023-35, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located north of McCoy Road, east of Narcousie Road, south of Lee Vista Boulevard, and west of South Goldenrod Road, and comprised of 19.50 acres of land, more or less, and amending the city's boundary description, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to designate the property as industrial on the city's official future land use maps, designating the property as industrial park with the aircraft noise overlay district on the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Ortiz. Madam Clerk?
No speakers, Mayor.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2,
Ordinance number 2023-45, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to work to non-conforming long-standing buildings, amending Chapter 58, Part 7C Land Development Code entitled Non-Conforming Buildings, Structures, and Vehicular Use Areas, providing for severability, codification, correction of Scrivener's error, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Madam Clerk?
No speakers, Mayor.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, number 3,
Ordinance number 2023-46, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to change the future land use map designation for approximately 2 acres of land generally located at the northeast corner of South Goldenrod and Lee Vista Boulevard, providing for amendment of the city's official growth management plan, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's error, and an effective date.
Move to approve.
motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Ortiz. Madam Clerk?
No speakers, Mayor.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And number 4,
Ordinance number 2023-48, an ordinance of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending Chapter 43 of the Code of the City of Orlando entitled Miscellaneous Offenses by amending and restating Section 43.45 Selling from Street, Sidewalks, and Public Rights-of-Way during events at the Florida Citrus Bowl, Orlando, Tinker Field, Mayor Bob Carr, Performing Arts Theater Center, and Amway Center, prohibitions and exceptions, to amend the title of the ordinance, amend the event facility subject to the ordinance, amend and reestablish the prohibited event days sale zones around the event facilities, delete the ticket resale exception, providing legislative findings, and for severability, codification, correction of Scrivener's error, and an effective date.
So moved.
motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Madam Clerk?
No speakers, Mayor.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Our last item of business is an appeal. It's a legislative appeal for 1155 North Orange Avenue, GMP 2310-10022, LDC 2023-10006. So this is an appeal of a legislative recommendation made by the Municipal Planning Board to the City Council. At its meeting on September 19, 2023, the MPB considered a proposed amendment to the Growth Management Plan to remove the subject property from the sub-area policy S.14.17 and an amendment to the Land Development Code to remove the subject property from the Virginia Drive Special Plan Overlay District. After conducting a public hearing, the MPB recommended approval of the proposed amendments. Section 2.179 of the Orlando City Code gives the appellant and the city staff each 10 minutes to present their case. We're also going to give the applicant 10 minutes to present their case, and we'll give the opportunity to the appellant to reserve time for rebuttal. We'll begin, though, with some background information from the city planning manager, Elizabeth Dang, and then we will hear from the appellant and the applicant, and then from the public. Okay, Elizabeth?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Elizabeth Dang. I'm the City Planning Division Manager here today to talk about the property at 1155 North Orange Avenue. This property is generally located south of North Orange Avenue, west of Highland Avenue, east of I-4, and north of the Orlando Urban Trail. It's approximately 1.3 acres. There are 3 requested actions, 2 of which have been appealed. So the first item is to amend the city's growth management plan, its sub-area policy S.14.7, to change the boundary of that policy to remove the subject property. The second part of the request is to amend the Land Development Code, which is section 62.410, figure 62.410-1, to remove the subject property from the Virginia Drive Special Plan overlay. And the third part of the request is a master plan for development of a 14-story multifamily building with 254 dwelling units, 6,270 square feet of ground floor retail use, and 477 associated parking spaces. So this aerial photo shows the surrounding area. You can see I-4 off to the west. To the north is Ivanhoe Village, and to the south is the OUC substation, as well as further south, the downtown area. These site photos show the existing development. There is a business called Light Styles on the south end, and another Workscapes business on the north end. You can see the existing sidewalk as well. So this is the rendering of the proposed multifamily building facing Orange Avenue. The site plan here, you can see on the left, there are 2 curb cuts on Orange Avenue, ground floor retail space, as well as a leasing lobby area and a service area. The next levels 2 through 5 will be a parking garage, followed by an amenity deck on level 6, and then residential units on levels 7 through 14. This shows the front elevation facing Orange Avenue. This is the rear elevation facing the train tracks. And then the southwest side facing toward downtown, as well as the northeast side facing towards Ivanhoe. So some background on this property. It was included in the community redevelopment area in 1990. As well as when the traditional city zoning overlay was adopted in 1991, this property was included. In 2016, the city engaged a consultant and hosted a series of public meetings to develop ideas for the future of Virginia Drive, Alden Road, and Orange Avenue corridors. The resulting report was finalized in 2017. And at that point, the council adopted a code amendment to create the Virginia Drive Special Plan Overlay District, as well as the related sub-area policy in the Growth Management Plan, which followed in 2018. Before the adoption of the special plan, the height limit for this property was limited only by the height allowed through our airport zoning control review through FAA and GOA. But in 2017, the special plan limited the height of this property to 5 stories on Orange Avenue. The current zoning of the site is AC3AT, which has a maximum density of 200 units per acre and allows a non-residential square footage of 4.0 FAR. So for 1.3 acres, that equates to 260 dwelling units and 226,512 square feet of non-residential development. And again, they're asking for less than that maximum amount. This map shows the existing future land use and zoning. It's part of the Downtown Activity Center, as well as the AC3A zoning district. And you can see here the site with the underlying Downtown Activity Center. It is a little further north and east of the remainder of the Downtown Activity Center, but it has been that way for many years. Those are the only two parcels in the special plan overlay that are designated as Downtown Activity Center. So the requested change to the future land use is a revision to the boundary of the sub-area policy, which you can see the current boundary on the left, and the proposed boundary to exclude the property on the right. Then the code amendment is again a change to the map, not the text of the special plan, and you can see here the boundary will change to exclude the property. So the zoning requests that amendment of a special plan, the city code does specifically call out that property owners within a special plan district may apply for an amendment to the adopted special plan. Now that's different than our citywide code provisions, which must be initiated by the city. So there was, even back in 2003, an idea that property owners in special plans may have a greater need than other property owners to amend based on their site-specific conditions. So the policy considerations here, the sub-area policy and special plan boundary decisions are legislative, meaning that the council can base their decision on the kind of overall vision for growth and development within the city. And staff is recommending denial of the appeal and approval of the project based on some of these policy considerations. First off being that the underlying zoning is AC3A, which is only one other property on the special plan that's similarly designated, so it does make the property unique. It's at the boundary of the special plan as opposed to being in the middle. It's in the downtown CRA, which has comparable requirements for streetscape and design review, as well as the height is compatible with the surrounding uses. There are no single-family properties in the immediate vicinity of the site. It is in an urbanized area that has existing public facilities. And again, bigger picture for Central Florida is that there are concerns about an ongoing housing shortage and looking for opportunities for residential growth. So the findings here, this is required by the code, but first of all, the future land use change to that sub-area policy is consistent with the state comprehensive plan, the East Central Florida Regional Policy Plan, Florida statutes, as well as our own growth management plan, particularly Figure LU1 and Policy 2.1.1. This demonstrates the extent of changed conditions in the area since the adoption of the GMP, particularly related to the housing shortage. The amendment is compatible with the surrounding development pattern and will not result in demands on public facilities and services that exceed their capacity. Findings here related to the Land Development Code amendment. It's consistent with the growth management plan, with the public health and safety and welfare. It will result in compatible land uses and will result in orderly and logical development patterns. So here our staff recommendation is to deny the legislative appeal, accept the meeting minutes, and approve the actions of the Municipal Planning Board for the meeting of September 19th, which had 3 case numbers associated with it, and direct staff to prepare ordinances for the Growth Management Plan Amendment and the Land Development Code Amendment. And I'm available for any questions.
Okay, are there questions for Elizabeth? Commissioner Stewart.
Elizabeth, got a couple of questions. So let me just kind of cover a couple of things. Would you please reflect back on what the overall purpose of the Virginia Drive special plan is? And I guess in a sense, what's the overall purpose of all of our special plans?
So the goal of special plans is really to recognize the unique context of a particular location and identify kind of design considerations that can make it special, that can make it more compatible with the surrounding residential neighborhood. A lot of our special plans deal with signage, design considerations like transparency and windows, as well as the public realm of making sure that we get the sidewalks and street trees that fit with the vision for the area.
I apologize for putting you on the spot, but you were involved actually in developing this plan.
That's
So
correct,
when you were
yes.
involved in the plan, what did you see in your mind's eye about what was going on around Ivanhoe?
There's certainly a mix of historic buildings that are very close to the train tracks, as well as other smaller parcels that have traditionally been developed with retail. So that was what we talked about.
Did the community, in your opinion, because you're involved as a staff member, did the community and the council, did we have the idea that we were going to put, somebody was going to put a 14 to 20 to 25-story building along that stretch?
We didn't discuss that possibility at the time, no.
But wasn't it the idea to maintain the character of what was there?
Well, the idea is that new growth would fit with the character, not necessarily be the same.
And when we looked at the plan for the new growth, didn't we create some criteria, literally at y'all's suggestion, of how substantial growth would go? Didn't we create some criteria especially along this road?
Well, I don't recall how far south on Orange Avenue the development scenarios went, and I do remember that the focus was primarily on Virginia Drive and some of the Alden corridor.
Well, we clearly identified Alden, Virginia, and Orange Avenue. And along Orange Avenue, we decided that the maximum height that we would look at would be 5 stories. Was what we said was the definition of substantial growth.
Well,
I mean,
we may have undershot in that instance. I think that's the point, to come back. Here we are 6 or 7 years later looking at a possibility that we didn't consider at the time and evaluating it based on its own merits, which shows us that we do think the proposal is compatible with the surrounding uses on that particular segment of Orange Avenue.
When you look at adjacent properties, what is the underlying zoning for the properties just northeast of there?
So there is a small AC3A property immediately to the northeast, and to the southwest is the OUC building, which is zoned for public.
And when you go farther across the street, across Alden, along Swanson's Row, what's the underlying zoning there?
That is MU2, so mixed-use corridor, high intensity.
And so what's the height of a mixed-use corridor that we would place there?
I would have to look that up.
It's about 10 stories. And so we came back and said that that area there needs to be 5 stories instead of 10. Didn't we in fact downzone that area as well? Would you assume that we downzone that area if the information were accurate?
The issue there is that most of those sites are very shallow and they back up to the railroad track, so they're not as suitable for high-rise style development.
But they're clearly suitable for something greater than 5 stories, not necessarily 20 stories.
I don't know the answer to that without digging in a little deeper.
Okay, but clearly it was downzoned effectively from, I'm going from my records. It was downzoned from what would be a possibility of 10 stories down to 5, because this council and the board decided that we wanted 5 as kind of the limit around the lake. That's what...
Based on the
Right.
conditions of the site. And again, if that changes or something new comes up about those properties, we would certainly evaluate that again.
And what's the maximum height allowed at the AC3 if we choose the underlying zoning?
Right. There's no specific limit. It's based on the proximity to the airport, which here is pretty far, so it would be several hundred feet at least.
We got an amendment from you about something with the airport. I guess, is that the assumption that 14 stories is okay?
Yes,
that what it
yes,
is?
we did check that.
If we went
particular
higher,
height,
we'd have
yes.
to get approval
Right.
for that. Okay. Didn't we in fact rezone the entire property? Effectively, didn't we rezone the whole area?
The special plan overlay,
Yeah.
is that what you're asking? So it's an overlay zoning district.
So, okay.
So it doesn't, the underlying zoning is still part of the property.
So taking this out, do you think it creates an area of spot zoning that would run the challenge of having others in the same area want to do the same thing?
I think it's unique that it's one of only 2 parcels that's in the downtown activity center that's also in the special plan. So potentially we might have one other similar request, but other than that, I would think any other request would have to stand on its own merits and go through the same evaluation of land use compatibility that we've done here.
But your CRA continues to go up Alden and goes down Brookhaven and goes all the way over to Ferris, is that correct?
Right, but that's the OUC and Lake Highland parcels.
Parts of it are, that's correct?
Right, and those are not
That's got a
zoned.
separate PD on it.
Right, they're not zoned, they don't have AC3A zoning.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Further questions for Elizabeth? Either Elizabeth or Roy, just before we move on to the
I have a question.
Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you. Elizabeth, I walk by here every single day, and I've heard from several of the other business owners, and that they went through this special plan process, and now all of a sudden one of the parcels comes out, and nothing against the property owner, who I'm very fond of, but it puts me in a difficult situation, because I very much support the special plan overlays. I mean, the first one that we did was in my district, the Mill Special Plan, which brought the kind of development that we wanted to that area, and we've had many other special plans since then. And I share Commissioner Stewart's concern about this parcel, because we're saying that the other ones back up to the railroad tracks. This one backs up to the urban trail. It's the same situation. You don't have more than one ingress and egress. And another concern that I've got is we're about to put Orange Avenue on a road diet, which is of concern to the businesses as well. And we're going to plop a large redevelopment right in the middle of an area that we're already putting on a road diet. So I have a concern about the compatibility on that as well. And it just seems like we went through this whole special plan, yet it seems like there's not a very good plan. And we're not sticking with, the public hearing that Commissioner Stewart had and that the community had, and we're not sticking with what we have, but we're just going to go ahead and say, okay, well, this one parcel comes out. And I do have some concerns as someone who has a lot of special plans in their district, and I will say that the special plans do, if you're going to look at a Burt Harris Act, anyone could say that it's taking away their rights, because it does restrict, and so all special plans are an extra restriction upon what can happen, but a special plan is also an enhancement to make sure that the character is there. So I think that we're getting a lot of we're undoing something that we did as a protection.
Commissioner, do you have a question? That just seems like argument to me.
Well, what I'm trying to say is why this parcel, if you went through the planning process, why this parcel, if you went through this entire planning process, and it doesn't seem like this parcel is any different than any of the other parcels along this row?
Well, it is different, as I mentioned, because of the underlying AC3A zoning. And I think if we had caught that at the time that we were doing the special plan, we may have made a different decision. And so that's part of planning, is adapting to new information, making a good decision based on the land use on the site. And this particular site is, hundreds of feet away from the nearest single family. So it's not going to have balconies facing people's backyards. It has a lake in the front and it has a OUC substation in the rear. So it's not blocking anybody's direct view. And there are plenty of other tall buildings to the south as well as to the north, even as far as Advent Health, that this corridor certainly has seen a number of other tall buildings develop very successfully.
So so you're saying that this proposal is for 260 units?
I think it's just under that. That's the maximum. Let me pull it up here.
What would be the number of units on the 5-story limit in comparison?
We haven't done that math, but it kind of depends on how many floors of parking you need and if you'd be willing to go down to a reduced parking calculation for those units.
You see what I'm saying? It seems like we can manage to do the math on the larger one, but we can't do a comparison to the smaller development. That's my concern.
Yeah, of course we could do the math. I just didn't know that was going to be the question, so I have not done it yet.
And it would depend on what was proposed for a smaller development, I think. Elizabeth or Roy, whichever one of you wants to tackle this, could you remind us of the Burt-Harris Act implications?
Going to ask Roy to handle that.
Yeah, you have to think of Burt-Harris like any other limitation on the authorities that we have. As city council, the state has authorized you to zone property and to adopt certain zoning regulations. The state has also said these are the limits on these zoning regulations. So if it violates the Equal Protection Clause, it gets invalidated. If it violates the Constitutional Takings Clause, it gets invalidated. If it violates Burt-Harris, it does not get invalidated. We have to pay the difference in value. So the state, you have to look at this in the context of all of the legal implications that we have. And although the state is definitely authorized to us to handle zoning at the local level, we can't handle it in such a way that inordinately burdens a piece of property. So the issue would be, in this particular case, if we denied the application, does that inordinately burden the property? I don't know the answer to that question. There's obviously, if you look at the master plan and you look at the 5-story limit, there's a significant impact there. But we don't know what a judge would say, which kind of makes it difficult because we're trying to move forward based on the best information that we have. But that's how these decisions always are. They're always in the context of certain constitutional limitations that we have. And the Harris Act, although not a constitutional limitation, is still a statutory limitation that we would need to keep in mind as we move forward. I don't know if that answered the question, Mayor, but that's
kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Roy. So how we will proceed is the appellant, who's represented by Ms. Allison Yurko, will have 10 minutes, and then the applicant will have 10 minutes. And if Ms. Yurko wants to reserve some portion of her 10 minutes for rebuttal, we will allow her to do that, and then we will go to the public hearing. I think we have 8 or 9 requests to speak at public hearing, which is, thank you for coming, Knights.
Charge on. You left her in the good part.
That's true. Point of order, do you all have your outline table of contents?
We do.
Very good, and thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to reserve rebuttal. I will plan to do that at the end of the presentation. My name is Allison Yurko. I'm with Allison Yurko.
Hold on, before you go, Allison, you just want to go and then whatever you have left of your 10 minutes?
Yes, that's
okay.
Correct. Yes, thank you. Okay. Yes, so, and by the way, congratulations on your reelection and thank you for your service. I am a land use attorney with Allison Yurko, PA, representing Carol Hundren, one of the area residents, and we appreciate the opportunity to be here today. One of the most compelling concerns we have is the extent to which this will basically create a precedent for all of your other overlays. What is the point of a sub-area policy plan if you allow removal of parcels? Pretty straightforward. This plan was vetted by staff, the community, and city council for over a year, 3 community meetings, 3 hearings. It opens the door for similar exclusions in all of your other overlay districts. And there are significant impacts in a lot of these overlay districts. They supersede your zoning code. That's the point. You look at the overlay district in College Park. They have a number of underlying zoning districts, parcels with underlying zoning with a height restriction. The city would be agreeing with the property owner's claim that the overlay districts are a regulatory taking if you all allowed this plan to be removed based upon that. And that was, brought up with the MPB. And I, again, I know your council has said it's a gray area, but again, let that play out. This is, at the end of the day, a zoning map amendment. And that's right out of the staff report. And if you look here, you can see that they have in the zoning report a rezoning from AC 3AT SP to AC 3AT. And so they're not asking just to amend the plan, they're asking to rezone this property. And in your packet there, under the ordinance 2017-56, this was a rezoning in 2017. So when you do a rezoning, you have to follow the criteria under the city code. You have to look at, were there changed conditions? Well, we don't know of any changed conditions, but if there were, the plan itself, which is item 2 in your packet, which I'm submitting into the record for evidence, is guided by a substantial growth scenario. They looked at 3 stories and they said, no, we don't want moderate, we want substantial. So they already built that into the plan. Land use compatibility, that's a requirement. By the way, under Burt Harris as well. How is this compatible? You've got a plan that was vetted, a professional document by staff and everyone else that said, hey, this is a transitional development unit. And now we're throwing it out the window. You look at what's around there. 14 stories is not compatible, and by the way, it's correct. We're not looking at 14 stories. There's no tie to this master plan. That's a glorified permit here. The underlying entitlements that they're trying to give would be whatever the airport overlay would allow, probably up to 40 stories if it's not in a flight path. So you look at what is next to that. Yurgi is 2 stories. On the other side, it's 2 stories, OUC historic building. Just from that is 100 feet away is a 2-story office, and then you've got the 2-story shops. Even the other multifamily in the area is 7 to 9 stories, the yard, the lake house, and importantly, those both have side road access, as does 86 North Ivanhoe, which got approved back in September. This, by comparison, does not. It only has access onto North Orange Avenue. The other criterion that has to be met, it's their burden to, when they do a zoning map amendment, is to show that they have adequate public facilities, and that would include transportation. And you look at this access, you're going to have right in, right out within 125 feet of each other, right by a signalized intersection, close to the railroad track, close to the pedestrian trail, close to a prep school with a lot of kids that get out at the same time. So the site constraints and adjacent transportation facilities here limit the density. This parcel is not suitable. You heard Elizabeth Dang use that term. There are constraints here. This is on a railroad track. There's traffic heading south coming on North Orange Avenue. You've got traffic in front of the site stacking up. You've got traffic from Highland Avenue, which gets caught at the railroad. And then you've got traffic turning onto Highland Avenue that sometimes has to wait. There's a pedestrian there in that crosswalk. They're waiting for a pedestrian, and the railroad track is down. And so you've got that stacking potential. And how is this the most needed housing in the neighborhood? This is the lake house, and it's got empty balconies, and it's got empty retail. I couldn't afford to live there. I asked what the rentals were. They said $3,200 to $5,700. So with all due respect, this is not anything that makes sense. And with that, I'd like to reserve the remainder of my time for rebuttal. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if you'd hold her for 5 minutes. Okay, and now we will hear from the applicant, Ms. Wilson. And you have 10 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. May my 10 minutes start when my presentation gets
Yep.
pulled up, Mayor? Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Rebecca Wilson. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and I have co-counsel with me, Orlando Evora, who is representing the owner of this piece of property. And I just want to think, well, guys, it's like the first time I've ever been here, right? How do I get the... I think we're familiar with the location of the piece of property. What I want to talk a little bit about is how we ended up here today. And as Elizabeth set forward, in the 1970s and 1980s, this piece of property was zoned AC3A, which allowed the highest densities and intensities of all of Central Florida on this piece of property, just like you see downtown. In 1990, it was added to the CRA. In 1992, it earned the traditional city overlay. In 2008, the current owner purchased it. Triple D Enterprises, we have Elizabeth here with us today. She and her husband purchased this property. They named it after their children because they have 3 kids. And they opened their business on this piece of property. They also lease another portion of the piece of property. And this was an investment for their family, because when they purchased this piece of property, it could be redeveloped as AC3AT with a minimum density of 75 units an acre, a maximum of 200 by right, 400 with a density bonus, and now a 4.0 FAR. The property was significantly downzoned in 2017. What started as the Virginia Lake Highland Transportation Land Use Study eventually morphed into a plan that has really great things for the neighborhood, especially along Alden, Virginia, and the area of North Orange at the intersection with Virginia. The plan comes down, picks up this piece of property, and gives it a maximum height of 5 stories. And I really don't appreciate the scare tactic, which is this threat that if we are to look at a piece of property, reconsider our decisions, that we're somehow creating precedent that allows all overlay districts to go away. The point that staff highlighted is that there is a mismatch between the property rights that this property enjoyed for over 50 years and the 5-story height limit. This is the future land use. Again, I would argue that the overlay as applied to this piece of property is inconsistent with the GMP. The growth management plan states that the downtown activity center shall have the highest densities and intensities of all of Florida. All of Central Florida. Another problem that we have is this piece of property is AC3AT, it's in the red. What you see in the different shades of yellow are mixed use high and medium, and you see a little purple there is industrial. Let's see. So as you go up towards Virginia and closer to the homes in that neighborhood, those had a very different zoning that were impacted differently by the overlay. The MU1, and Commissioner Stewart, you were beginning to speak to this, that has 15 units an acre as its minimum. And under the zoning, it has 35 feet. This plan said that area could go up to 5 stories. The MU2, its minimum density is 30 units an acre. It did have a maximum height of 100 feet, and I have these flipped, but it allows 7 stories on Alden, which is actually closer to the neighborhood, and then 5 stories on Orange, similar with the ACN. So when you come to the AC3A, our minimum density is 75 units an acre. I don't know how you would fit 75 units an acre plus park it in 5 stories. So there's this fundamental mismatch between this zoning and the overlay. Let's see. Also, we only have so much land that is remaining to be developable in our downtown. And one of the things that the Virginia plan was trying to be very sensitive to along Virginia is its proximity to that Formosa neighborhood. The yard is right across the street from single-family homes. In this instance, the appellant lives 1,854 feet away from the site, and the other nearest homes are around 1,400 feet from this site. Just to address the adequate public facilities issue, as you know, this is in a transportation concurrency exception area, so we're not required to meet transportation concurrency. But I'd also like you to consider that during the plan, it was discussed specifically how this area has some of the best multimodal transportation in all of the city. It's on the urban trail, it is proximate to bus lines, it is also proximate to the Sunrail stop and significant employment. I also, Commissioner Stewart, I don't have it with me, but there was a market analysis that was done, I believe it's Appendix G of the study, and it did look at different development scenarios. What was significantly missing in that was any development scenario that included this piece of property. There were scenarios created along Virginia, there was a scenario created on the OUC, but there was never a scenario sort of test fit on this piece of property. Also on page 28 of the study, and I believe Ms. Yurko put it into the record, there is an analysis of the different zoning districts. It does not mention AC3AT in that analysis. It talks about what is allowed under MU1 and what is allowed under MU2. And then just most notably, we should be treated like the other properties that have AC3AT. And on the same municipal planning board meeting that we went to, a property also on Lake Ivanhoe, just to our southwest, similarly situated, around their 1.5 acres were 1.3. They got over 300 units. They are 159 feet. Our project is 172 feet. So very similar projects because we have the same zoning. One thing I do want to talk about, what's changed. One thing I do want to talk about is in 2018, through the owner's due diligence in thinking about redeveloping this property, they contacted a broker and discovered there was the 5-story limit. At that time, I got involved. I contacted your staff in 2018, and we had initial discussions about whether or not to pull this piece of property out, maybe to change it for all of the AC3AT property. And there was in 2020 a Virginia Drive Special Plan Amendment briefing memo created by your staff that talked about removing this property and 3 others from the site. One thing I do want to point out that has changed since the adoption of the plan. When the plan was adopted, the OUC property, which is to our southeast, it was planned for mixed-use development with townhomes and other residential. So that was in 2009. In 2019, that plan was changed, and OUC is now building a pretty significant substation there. So where the neighborhood was going to come closer to this piece of property with single-family homes, now instead there's going to be a large OUC substation there. Mayor, that's really all that I have for your consideration in this, but I'm happy to answer any questions that this board might have.
Okay, questions for Ms. Wilson, Commissioner Stewart?
Becky, I'm looking at page 6, next to the OUC, and it's got subject property. And I'm trying to understand those two together.
I'm sorry, it's page 6 of what?
Page, let's 2009 Plan for OUC, page 6. Yeah, there. So the subject property here that you're talking about is a subject property that is what? It's not your subject property because it's not the
No,
entire
sir.
property that you're dealing with.
Yeah, no, sir, this is a clip from the Municipal Planning Board CUP
Oh,
from
it's their,
2009.
it's their image.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's not my image.
Okay.
So that's their image, and that's OUC's property because it was the
Okay,
subject
so that
property.
It was their
of-
image about what they were doing.
Yes, sir, sorry. It was the subject property of this plan that allowed the single-family townhomes to be built on the OUC property, which was later changed in 2019 to remove that residential from being so close to us.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thanks, Mayor.
Ms. Yurko, you have 5 minutes.
Could I wait until the end of the?
Oh, this is the part where the attorneys talk.
Okay. Are we back on the clock?
Give the clerk 1 second. Madam Clerk, can you get her 5 minutes? There you
And
go.
if we can, I'd like to set this up too. We can switch to the overhead there. I just wanted to show a rendering of what the site looks like here. Let's see. Oops. It's sideways, but.
One more turn.
The bottom
The
line
other way.
is that,
There you
yeah,
go.
there we go.
And down, down,
Okay.
down.
Here, okay. So the bulk of the site is garage.
Can you help her?
Yeah, if somebody could help me with that. Thank you. The bulk of the site is garage. That's over there with the treetops, and we want to point that out. That's what that's going to look like. Your special plan was very clear that you wanted to retain the character of the area. That's going to be next to a 2-story historic building. It's going to be next to a 2-story office building on the other side. We talk about the 86 North Ivanhoe, and that property is on a quiet street that's going to have ample room for access. You can see the proximity to residential here from the site. You can see that North Ivanhoe project is in the cloverleaf of I-4. It is a much different situation. And I also wanted to point out that this is what a 14-story building looks like. It basically the CNL building might be 15 stories, but it towers over City Hall. And you're going to put that in a community where they have single-family residential in the vicinity, and you're going to put it in an area where you have essentially 2-story buildings. The 86 North Ivanhoe property, by the way, does not have the same zoning. It has AC 3A zoning. And we have a zoning map amendment here today. Per your plan and per the outline that I've submitted, adequate public facilities are required to be shown by the applicant when they do a rezoning. It has nothing to do with concurrency. That's under 65.366 of your code. And you look not only at transportation, with a lot of questions there about how access is going to work, but you look at education. That's a component of adequate public facilities. And per your packet, at page 18 through 20, this is in Audubon K through 8, which is over capacity. You look at emergency services, per your packet at page 21, there are conditions related to the NFPA requirement that requires that you have access to a building on at least 2 sides. Well, here we have a building on a railroad track with a 0 side yard setback. And we also have in your packet on page 22 and 23, the MPB minutes. There were 10 people in opposition, including Light Styles, which has been in business about 60 years. That is an iconic business. They have a lease that does not expire until May of 2026. They have 25 employees. And they're asking a lot of questions about why do we have to throw out the plan and do this right now. With that, I appreciate the City Council taking a hard look at this. It absolutely has citywide precedent. It is not a threat. It is just the way things work. When you allow one property owner to say, oh, well, you're taking away our rights, you open the door for everyone else to do that with your overlays. We would respectfully request that you deny this request today. Thank you.
Questions for Ms. Yurko? Okay, we have, we'll now move to public testimony. So the rules are, I'll call your name, and we're going to do them in the order they were received. State your name and your address, and then you'll have 3 minutes to address council. So I'm going to call the first three so you can get ready. Brian Marin, Becky Bell, and William Marish. First up, Brian.
My name is Brian Marin. I live at 1025 Terrace Boulevard. I've been a resident of the neighborhood for about 30 years. Very happy with the neighborhood, very happy with the job our commissioners are doing with the city. I would just like to go on the record and state that I am against the proposal the way it currently is. I believe that every commissioner here has special plan overlays, which a lot of time and effort have been put into, and sort of in agreement with the attorney for Mrs. Hendren. It just seems as if it's a rezoning issue, and it doesn't appear to me that it fits the general aesthetics of the neighborhood, and I am against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Becky Bell.
Hi, guys. So my name is Becky Bell. I live at 1705 Dauphin Lane. I'm an architect by profession, but today I'm also a citizen. You know, I'm always a citizen. And I'm pro-development and pro-housing because of both those things. However, I'm adamantly opposed to the monstrous size at this location because I believe the height is not compatible with the development goals of that area. As a ratio, I've said this before, but as a ratio, if this were 5 stories, this building would be 14 stories. That's a very different, if we're all to stand up, put our hands up 5 stories, and then look at the size of this building. That would be in the middle of that. And that's something I want to clarify. They've said that this is on the perimeter of the special plan. The special plan's a T. What's next to it? Lake Ivanhoe, Gaston Edwards Park, Orange Ave, these buildings. The only reason it's on the end is because there's park and lake. Like otherwise, it's in the center of that T. So I think it's the heart and the core of that area, and it's important to be really focused on keeping that as part of our plan. The other thing I'd like to say is that this area is anchored by tall city-like buildings. It's not part of the special plan. That's welcome, right? You're not in the special plan. You can have the DoubleTree on that end. We've got the lake house on that end. But between it, it's not about being close to houses or anything like that. I'm a resident. It's not about that. It's about creating an attraction. Our attraction is our Main Street. I live in Orlando because of the Main Street programs and the collection of Main Street programs that creates a beautiful character in Orlando. And what I'd like to see is us focus on retaining that, and retaining that with the pedestrian scale. So pedestrian scale, 5 stories, setback, or setbacks above that, whatever. I think we can make that a great pedestrian scale, but 14 stories is atrocious, in my opinion, right there in the middle of your facades and your frontages. And that's the point about Main Streets, and it's different than a suburb. Suburbs are clusters. This area is a T because it's about main streets. It's about the frontages. And this frontage is just way too high, I think, in my opinion, in that area. So I ask that you guys oppose this being removed from the special plan, because I think it's an important keystone in that plan. I have so much more to say, but I'm going to stop because we're about out of time anyway. And y'all said a lot of really good stuff at the beginning, so thank you.
Thank you. William Marish, Stephanie Higgins, and then Charlene Nareto.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm William Mariash. I live at 701 Terrace Boulevard. And just in general, I'm definitely not against development. I think development's great, Orlando, and I'm glad we have good folks like you considering everything that gets developed here in Orlando. But as with anything, development needs to be reasonable. And again, you folks get to decide what is reasonable here. Previously, a lot of time and effort was spent by many folks here in this area to decide what is reasonable, and they came up with this Virginia Drive special plan. And that's a standard of reasonableness. And under that standard, 5 stories is what is reasonable. Now we have the owners of a piece of property trying to do something differently. They had one option would be to seek a variance for their property. They didn't elect to seek a variance. Instead, they elected to take a wholesale removal of their property from the Virginia Drive special plan. If they were to seek a variance, they would have had to go, jump through several hurdles to get that approved. They've had to do none of that. Instead, they had one meeting before the Municipal Planning Board. Obviously, they went through a tremendous amount of effort with city planning and all that, but it's different than what would be required under a variance standard. And I would think before you could just be wholesale removed from something, you might have to go through more of an effort than going through a variance. And here, I don't think they've gone through more of an effort. They've just submitted their proposal, and now we have, we're seeking an amendment to them being removed from the Virginia Drive special plan. In that area, you've already heard, we do have some, multi-dwelling residential structures. We have this yard structure. We have the what is it called there on Lake Ivanhoe? I can't think of it right now, but the other structure on Lake Ivanhoe, they're approximately 9 stories tall. This is right there in that same area, and this is more than 1.5 times as tall as those other structures. I don't think is reasonable. I think more time, more effort, more discussion needs to be had on this before we let something, 1.5 times as big as anything else around residential in that area. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Stephanie Higgins.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Higgins, and I live at 1321 West Harvard Street. I am a 31-year resident in the area. I'm married, and I have 3 sons that I have raised and sent to school here. I moved to Orlando, and specifically this area, because I love, and when I tell you love, I love the small town downtown. And as I have been here through the 90s and through the 10s and through the teens, when all of the overlays began, I was very excited to see what was happening in Orlando. I think it's a wonderful place to raise children, and I want it to remain so. My 3 concerns are, number 1, the community was involved in this very recently, and the community got together, and we all spoke, and we made our concerns known to you that we wanted a limit of 5 stories. The other thing that I'm very concerned about is the traffic impact. I drive up Virginia at least 2 or 3 times a day. Currently, when I sit at Virginia and Orange Avenue waiting to get to Fresh Market, I am currently waiting through 2 or 3 lights as it is. There's a problem there. This isn't going to help it. And the last thing that is very important to me, because I've raised children in this community, is the pedestrian situation. It's getting dangerous. There's a lot of near misses that I see along Virginia, and I just think just cramming more people, more cars, more parking. You've got a school there that sometimes it gets so far backed up all the way out to Orange and Princeton. You're sitting there, you know, when you're coming down Princeton trying to take on a right on Orange. If Lake Highlands getting out, you could be there for a while. So let's not make the traffic worse. Let's not make the pedestrian situation. Your constituents have spoken. We want 5 stories, and we just want a really cute small town downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlene Nareto, then Paul Schaefer. And then Mary Louise Schaefer after Paul.
Hi, Charlene Nareto, 2820 Elizabeth Avenue, Orlando 32804. I as well have been a longtime resident here, moved here in 2006, and chose as well this downtown area that feels like a small community. When there is an overlay made with rules and regulations, we should follow those. Those are there for a purpose. They are there to regulate how fast an area grows, that it grows within a certain pace, and that it stays safe for everyone. I want to tell you that my son almost got killed at the corner of this intersection that we're talking to. His grandmother lives at Park Lake Condominiums, and he would come out of College Park, he'd go up Orange Avenue, and turn to go up that street. It is so dangerous, we had to stop that. The only way that he can visit grandma is if we take him. He's getting older and he'll be driving soon, so you should all hide. But I'm telling you that that intersection is dangerous now. If we add this much to that area without some plan in place to make this better, then we are not doing a service to our community, we are hurting it. In all due respect to the owners, I have property I can't build on because, you know, the zoning is not there. I could try to get that changed, but sometimes you can't. And sometimes you have to go with the rules that are in place. It's great, have a conversation about changing it, but if that area is not ready for it, then it's just not happening. And I don't think this area is ready. With all due respect, again, to all of you and to the owners and to the PAC development, this area is not ready for 15 stories. Let's stick with the 5 that's in the plan, and let's move forward that way. That's all I have to say today, and again, I thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Paul Schaefer, then Mary Louise Schaefer. And then John Rader.
Yes, Paul Schaefer, 1024 Terrace Boulevard. I've lived in this neighborhood. I'm on my second house in the neighborhood since 1990. We go through the process and work as a community to put together a special plan. This took over a year to put together, and I'm just puzzled at, you know, what's kind of the point in going through the process and having the community involvement if you're not going to abide by it and go through the special plan and utilize what was gone through to do this, the zoning, and to work through the development of this neighborhood. Thank you. Please support the continued of that property in the special plan.
Thank you. Mary Louise Schaefer. You need to come to the mic. We have to. Public meetings, and we got to be able to record the testimony.
My name is Mary Louise Schaefer. I reside at 1024 Terrace Boulevard. I've lived there since 1996. And just to reiterate what somebody else said earlier, or add to it, according to the city's website, the entrance to Ivanhoe Village area is marked by that little replica Statue of Liberty that's right there at the end of the street, just up the street from the subject property that we're talking about. And so that places this property firmly in Ivanhoe Village, not on the edge. It's in Ivanhoe Village. And it's a mid-rise area, not a high-rise area like the downtown or north quarter. The highest buildings, the Yard and the Lake House, top out at like 9 stories, which is 100 feet. And this proposal is 172 feet, 72% taller than anything else in the neighborhood. It's vastly out of character. And so I strongly ask you to please keep this in the special planned area. 5 stories is what we worked for and what the community asked for and what the city put in place. It shouldn't just be taken out of that. Thank you.
Thank you. John Rader, David Yurgi, and Kevin Dunleavy.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is John Rader. I live at 735 Terrace Boulevard. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'd like to ask you to vote no, and I'll give you the reasons why. In 2017, we came together out of concern for the yard and the lake house. Note, those are right up against I-4. This development ends up being about 250, about maybe 300 feet from Lake Highland waterway. 14 stories is mammoth. It does not go in line with what was said earlier with regards to our neighborhood. 9 stories was developed at the yard, which is over by I-4. Don't forget, Brookhaven is being bulldozed to build more yards. We've talked about and you've heard about the lack of development. Don't forget, if you're not familiar with our neighborhood, Brookhaven is being demolished and more of the yards are being developed. So there's opportunities there for that. But the 2017 concerns from the neighborhood created due diligence. It created time for us to come up with this overlay. And it was agreed upon by everyone involved. So just making, you've heard the rule or the comment about, don't make the exception the rule. I'm asking you for a no vote on this to say no, because it doesn't limit 14. They could say 20. There could be a lot of things that could happen that your vote yes could, in my opinion, really be an issue for our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is, I've been here since 1999. I've met some of you, I haven't met all of you. But there's overlays for a reason in your neighborhood. I think you've seen by the passion of everyone living here that let's go back and stick with what we have set in 2017. I'm asking you to vote no. Then we come back and work together. Then redo the whole plan. Comments were made earlier about how Ivanhoe and Orange Avenue are going to be redone with regards to the traffic. This is a major, major issue. So I can tell you, a comment was made on a thing here about 1,800 feet. The appellate lives 1,800 feet away from the corner. That's basically 2 drivers if you play golf. So a comment was made that it's not an eyesore. It's an eyesore. It'll literally be about 250 feet from Lake Highland in the middle of the neighborhood. So if, everything has been said today, I would just say the reason why we came here is passion for the culture of our neighborhood. If we had this in your neighborhood and you saw this many people come out and say, hey, no, just causes us to pause and go back to the drawing board and have time to think about it and plan. We've done this ever since Lake Highland developed their park and their fields. That's what this commission, that's what our neighborhood is about. So I ask for your vote no on this. Thank you.
That's probably closer to 3 drivers for me, by the way. David Yurgi and...
2 for Susie, 3 for you.
Yeah, something like that. David Yurgi and Kevin Dunleavy.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. For the record, my name is David A. Yurgi Jr. My office is at 211 North Magnolia Avenue, Orlando, Florida, where it has been for the 40 years that I've practiced law here. Before that was practicing with my father. I have had that office in downtown Orlando during that time. I was born and raised here in Orlando. I own the property through an entity that, ironically, similar to the adjoining property owners, is named just after my 3 children, 2 of which live in College Park. The intent was to move my office with my son into that building at 1199 North Orange Avenue, which again is immediately adjacent to this development at 1199 North Orange. Some of the things I won't mention because they've already been referenced by other members, but one point that need to be made with regard to this special plan. As I understood that the objectives as set forth in section 62.410C, The whole purpose of this overlay was to preserve the historic, culture, and social character of the Virginia Drive area. I don't believe there's been any showing of how this 172-foot building or a 14-story building would preserve any of that character for this area at all. The traffic issue's been mentioned. I have many elderly clients. My office, I hope to move into that building right next door. And the traffic is already difficult. Obviously, with the changes and converting this to 2 lanes, it will make it even harder for them to access that parcel on the corner where we are presently located. I didn't oppose this overlay at the time. I guess I could have in 2017 because I care more about Orlando and its appearance as a lifelong resident. To me, that's the most important thing. You know, the arguments that the staff has made that it's right on the edge of this overlay are just not accurate. It is, as the pictures show, it is located within the overlay. If you grant this request, you're establishing a very dangerous precedent. And I believe as one speaker mentioned, some type of spot zoning, where they would use this as an example for other potential developments that are not in accordance with the plans that have been thought out and participated in by many of the residents in the area. I am now faced with the potential issues of walking out of my office and looking up directly at my potential office at a 172-foot structure that will be located within 7 feet of the property line. And as you saw from the pictures, it is right next door to the front door of our building. I would respectfully request that this council accept the appeal and enforce it. Thank you.
Kevin Dunleavy.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Kevin Dunleavy. I live at 1030 Terrace Boulevard. Like a number of these folks, I've been a resident here for probably at that location for 27, 28 years. And, you know, I moved there when this place probably wasn't as desirable as it is now. And it's interesting that what makes a neighborhood cool attracts a lot of people, and maybe sometimes to the point where it starts making it, you know, difficult to live there. And I don't want to see that happen. I think when the yard came to be in the lake house, you know, some of the residents got together along with city staff and said, hey, listen, let's take a look at this whole area and let's really discuss what we want this to be going forward. And so, you know, to the city's credit, they got everyone together. They brought staff, they brought in consultants, they engaged the neighborhood, they engaged the businesses to talk about, you know, how we think this should go based on all the criteria that everyone wants to have. I own property. I like to sell it and use it at the highest and best use. But there are some constrictions that we all live within. So I respect that you guys will go back to what the city did and all the work that they did, because they put a lot of work into that special district plan, and support that and make sure that all these properties that are within that stay within that. So thank you very much.
Mayor, we have 3 more speakers.
Oh, okay.
Yvonne Van Bochoven.
Are they online, Madam Clerk?
They were completed in person. The second one being Emily Ed. And the third speaker being Cody Arcady. That's all we have, Mayor.
Okay. Council, I have a question for Elizabeth. Can you come back up? So Elizabeth, you were part of the planning process, right, for the
Yes.
overlay?
Mhm.
Was there any discussion, okay, so in 2016, this property could have been developed to whatever height they could go in terms of the airport. Once we adopted the overlay, it limited them to whatever this is, 5 stories, right?
Right.
So was there discussion related to that at the time? Did the owner, I mean, I know we must have given notice to everybody, but I can't imagine.
Right. I don't recall any discussion about this parcel. You know, we always have our sort of mental list of parcels that come in a lot for questions and people looking to buy or sell, and this one never came up as a potential redevelopment site at the time.
Elizabeth, I'm going to give you a shot at that one if you would like it.
Mayor, can I have a question for Elizabeth?
Yep, while you're coming up, Elizabeth.
One?
Oh, yeah, there's 2. Elizabeth, our city planner.
Okay, yes, sir.
Elizabeth, we talked last week about the possibility of creating a sub-area inside this particular special plan.
Mm-hmm.
I was awaiting to get some wording about that from you, with the idea being that it's possible that we could refer this back to MPB or back to staff to come up with a sub-area policy for this particular piece of property. I haven't heard that, so tell me what your thoughts are about accomplishing that task.
Right, so if anyone's looking for a compromise of maybe 5 stories is not enough, but no limit is too much, you could add and create a site-specific sub-area policy for this lot that says the height is 10 stories or 12 or 14 or whatever, and that's something that you could recommend today as part of your approval process.
Would we recommend something specific, or would we recommend that staff look at a sub-area policy and present it back to us through MPB?
I think it would need to be something specific, because we don't know what your thoughts are on how far you want to go. We'd also have to kind of talk with the applicant, because from my understanding, this is the size of the project that's needed to make it functional. And in many cases, it's not as simple as taking a floor or 2 off the top and having a slightly smaller project. It's either this or not doing the project. And so that's why kind of a middle ground on that may not really create a solution for the project.
Well, in all due respect, this is a project in front of us in which it could become feasible if we approve it. But in a sense, aren't we being placed as a partner in development of this property? I mean, I'm really uncomfortable with the idea. There are other pieces of property that can be developed on this that could be profitable. They just won't be 174 unit. You know, I mean, that's what I'm kind of trying to understand, is that to do an apartment complex and make money at it, they need 14 stories to accomplish that task. I understand that. That makes a lot of sense. But this is not the only use of this property. It happens to be the use that they're recommending. Is that correct?
Right, they have a master plan, so for,
That's
you know,
their
until the master
recommendation.
plan
Right.
expires, that's their approved project, would be that.
Okay.
Okay, Elizabeth Dvorak. Help me with how we got here.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak. You asked about the notice that this was taking place in 2017. We have, nor does my husband have any recollection of that notice. When we found out about it, when we went to mobilize our plans, we asked for proof that something went out. We could not, outside of maybe some public notices. We were in South Florida at the time, expanding our business statewide. So I have absolutely no recollection. So you can imagine we were pretty blindsided by this. We've taken the approach of a work with the city. We love Orlando. Started my company here in 1998, celebrating 25 years this year. And we always knew when we bought that property that it's not suitable for workscapes long-term. It was suitable to redevelop for our family. So we were pretty blown away by the change. We thought it surely was a mistake, and that's when 4 years ago 4 or 5 years ago now. We have been spending a lot of time and energy and trying to figure out how we work through this together.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stewart, then Commissioner Ortiz. Commissioner Ortiz, then. Sorry.
Well, I've got a statement. I don't know what.
Okay.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, sir. The law, like government, is an evolving science, and this is not an easy one. Any law is subject to review, assessment, and be amended. I totally agree with Ms. Allison Jericho in reference to the overlay was passed, it was unanimous. We shouldn't let this property come out of the spatial layout. So, but having said that, there's other elements to this that need to be discussed further. So, Mayor, I'm going to make a proposal. Do deny the appeal and revise the MPB recommendation to keep the property in the special plan boundary and remove the height limit for the property and defer the height limit to the underlying zoning.
Okay, so your motion is to leave the property within this special overlay, but to restore the height that was available to it prior to the overlay.
For further discussion with the community later on, yes.
Okay. I'm gonna check with the lawyer. You good with that motion, Roy?
It's a sub-area policy we just created.
I mean, I think what you'd have to do on the motion is it would be to deny the appeal, accept the minutes, and approve the actions of MPB with the revision that the property remain in the special plan, but that the height limit be removed from that particular piece of property. So it would stay in the plan with respect to all the other requirements except for the height limitation. And then you would just direct staff to prepare an ordinance that would amend the LDC to that effect.
Okay. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to be thoughtful how I propose this. So, Roy, you're stating that with this new motion, it will go into the overlay as it was intended, and now their project is dead?
No. The property would stay in the plan, but the plan would be modified to remove the height restriction for this particular piece of property.
Okay.
All the other restrictions in the plan would still apply to this
Except for
property.
this project.
Except for
Thank you.
this one. It would be different from the analysis that we have now because it would remain in the plan as opposed to the way MPB approved it. It was to remove this property from the plan
Understood.
overall.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I
Commissioner
ask a
Sheehan.
question?
Hold on.
Well, the height's the point of the plan, so if you're going to leave it, why leave it in the plan if you're going to remove the height restriction? That makes absolutely no sense. I mean, that's like saying, okay, put a high-rise where in the middle of a residential neighborhood, but, it just doesn't make sense. So if you're going to take out the height restriction, that is the plan.
Right. What I'm trying to convey here is that it would grant the opportunity to not only the residents but also for the businesses to come together again, reassess that opportunity, discuss it to see what the plan, what a new plan could be. It may not have to be 14-story, it could be less.
Well, in all due respect, what you did was
I haven't done
remove the height
anything yet.
restriction, so that, a better alternative is for us to decide that we think that a good compromise is 9 and determine that's the case and see if the applicant can come back with a 9-story building.
Well, I figured we would let the community get involved on that one, so
Yeah,
that's why I didn't put any limitations.
And all those-
Commissioner Hill.
Mayor, and I understand the sentiments of the neighborhood, but all throughout the city of Orlando is changing. From Paramore to downtown, to Baldwin Park, to Lake Nona. And Paramore has transitioned. It was single families. Now we got high rises and more high rises to come. It almost seemed as if, and no disrespect, and blame it to my head and not my heart, because I mean well, of these enclaves of those that have influence and wealth. To where she, no, I don't want my little neck of the woods to grow. I still want that small town effect. But everywhere else throughout the city is growing. And if we're going to be future ready, we just have to be in that mindset of maybe be in a suburban area. But our downtown is growing. And we just have to continue down that path. This isn't near a residential area from what it looked like on the map.
It is.
It's 1,800 feet away, 1,800 feet away. But, you know, we have single-family homes in Paramount. We have single-family homes over in Creative Village. I'm going to support the motion that Commissioner Ortiz put place and second it.
Okay, motion and second. Allison, you had one question.
Yes, just for purposes of clarification, my understanding is by virtue of approving this, you would be granting unlimited height, subject only to getting a tall structure permit, so we could be looking at 40 stories or so. And I think Commissioner Sheehan expressed that. If you're inclined to want to invite some discussion with the neighborhood, the manner in which you could do it is to deny their request, to grant our appeal, and there is no rush on this. There's a lease until May of 2026, and ask that there be a thoughtful and considerate review of the height, perhaps tie it to a planned development so there's some meaningful understanding of how everything is going to work there. But in the absence of that, there's no concession, with all due respect to Commissioner Ortiz, this is no concession to the neighborhood at all. It's granting them 40 feet or higher, 40 stories or higher, I'm sorry. So we're a bit taken aback by that, with all due respect. And we'd ask that you not support that motion. Thank you.
Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd just like to weigh in a little bit if I could. And I have had the opportunity to hear from all parties and certainly folks today. I want to thank everybody for coming. There's some serious issues on both sides. But look, in my role here in the southeast part of town, things have changed dramatically in the 20 years I've lived there. In Lake Nona, when I lived there, Narcoossee Road was 2 lanes, and there was a lot of farms. And if you go out there now, Narcoossee Road is 6 lanes, and there's a lot of commercial building. So things change over time. And when I look at this overlay plan, I'm a little bit confused, like I think most people here, is what was behind it. Because when you look at what happened with the overlay plan, all the properties, all the properties were effectively downzoned by virtue of a height limitation. And I cannot imagine a property owner that was aware of that would not have come in and contested that. I mean, you want to have as many options as are available. So I'm confused why ownership didn't come in, and they've said that they didn't know about it, which seems reasonable to me. I've always said one of the things that frustrates me is we follow the state statute, but we don't notice people that are very far away. I think our limit is, help me Roy, 300 to 500 feet. That's a football field. And a building of this size certainly impacts people more than a football field away. So I think we should talk about, as a council at another time, the notion of expanding the notice requirements. But that said, I understand compatibility, I understand traffic, and I understand affordability in schools, all those things. They're legitimate concerns. But we deal with that all over the city. And please show me someplace in our city where we don't have traffic. I'd love to move there. I can't find one. We have traffic all over the city because we're a growing city, and that's one of the downsides of growing is you have some taxing on your infrastructure. So anyway, here's my sense. This property, by virtue of this special plan, was artificially downzoned, and I don't think that's appropriate. And when I look at it, through no fault of anybody, I just think this was a simple oversight and mistake certainly by staff, but by us as council members, and I'll take credit too. I should have done a little more digging to figure this out, because if you limit somebody with a 1 acre site with only a single point of access to 75 units per acre, and you ask them to do retail and park it, there's no economic way you can build this property with 5-story limitation. So my view is that we deny the appeal, but I think certainly the group is willing to talk about some options. But at this stage, I chalk it up to a simple oversight and mistake on the behalf of the staff and then us as voting members, because you can't develop this site if you have a 75 unit per acre limitation on it. You just can't develop it. So that's my position. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Hill?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. Sorry about that.
I'm in the same position that Commissioner Gray is. We're a new city, or a relatively young city, I suppose, so we've had the great benefit of having these wonderful single-family neighborhoods that abut our downtown area. But we also are in a housing crisis, and not just at the affordable level, every level. The young couple that bought a $250,000 house that thought they were going to move into a $400,000 house is now looking at an $800,000 house. So at every level of housing, we need housing, and we promote housing density in our downtown and in Paramore. This is on the edge of our downtown. It's on the edge of the neighborhoods, but I agree, it's not like there are some other places that we have tall buildings going up that the housing is a lot closer than what this is. So I think I can pretty much count votes here. So Commissioner Ortiz, would you accept a friendly amendment to limit, not unlimited, but to 12 stories? Was it 12 or 14?
14.
14 stories.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to speak, please.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Stewart, and then Commissioner Sheehan.
Yeah, let me share a couple of thoughts, and I apologize, but I just feel like I need to go on the record to say this. Commissioner Gray, I understand your concern about notice. We had meetings over a course of an entire year about the vision plan. So the idea of legal notice about this particular property is valid. But we also had several hundred people over the course of an entire year knew that the plan was coming, knew things were happening. I don't know that this didn't come to us by saying, oh, by the way, here's something. What came to us 6-7 years ago was a plan. Okay. Let me just share. I wrote a couple of things, and I've got a couple of comments from what y'all have said. In 2009, I worked really hard to try to get the Edgewater Drive vision plan moving forward, giving guidance to developers for the growth and for land use on Edgewater Drive. Several years later, we applied the same process, looking for growth in the Ivanhoe Village Main Street. I've had the honor to be part of this community for almost 70 years. I remember the impact of the Coliseum and the Boliseum and the Aquaseum, for those of you who remember that. I remember the fire that eventually shut those down. I remember the way this area fluctuated without identity until it kind of took the name Ivanhoe Row or Antique Row for a while. I remember this council looked at this district and created one of our first 4 main streets here. And since that time, the growth was a challenge, but the community stuck with a shared vision of what Ivanhoe Village could become. Along comes 2006 and 2016 and 2017. This area saw the addition of the Yard, the prospects of the Yard 2, and the addition of the Broadstone, now called the Lake House. The community and our planning staff saw the stress in the neighborhood, similar to the same feelings that was created the Edgewater Drive Vision Plan. We hired a consultant, created a process for community and property owner input. Our staff took their input and created the proposed plan and overlay district for the purposes outlined in the plan, generally to maintain the unique characteristics of the neighborhood. There was plenty of input and process that took more than a year. Now we stand at the test of this district, and for that matter, any district. Our city has rezoned this area, regardless of the underlying land use, but our staff has moved forward based upon the underlying land use, essentially made recommendations based upon that. Nobody knows quite why this is on the edge of the CRA, adjacent to a mixed use, and originally zoned AC3, except that someone got brought in from a commercial zoning in the 60s and 70s. But in my opinion, that's essentially moot. This council, 6 of the 7 of us, unanimously decided that the planning staff made recommendations just 7 years ago and are now recommending a modification. Look, I'm for revisiting special plans, and I'm against spot zoning. And based upon our process, this change in this plan looks a whole lot like spot zoning. Here's some other thoughts. The plan was used to promote neighborhood consistency. I don't see how this 14-story building is consistent to the neighborhood. This change of zoning and height is entirely inconsistent with the special plan. If we choose to make a decision based upon the Burt Harris Act as a potential lawsuit, then we open up the entirety of Orange Avenue, because it appears that we downsized some of ours from 10 stories to 5 stories as well. If we make that decision, then we need to reevaluate the entire special plan, for that matter, all of our special plans. Mayor and council, we create these plans for a purpose, and while I understand the issue, this appeal is the test of the will of this council to keep committed to a plan. Now, let me just share. There has been no significant change in the area over there in the last 7 years. But there has been a significant change in the interpretation of the area by our staff. And that's what concerns me. I believe that there is a compromise between 5 and 14 stories. I think this council probably should not make that decision. That decision ought to go back to the community and let the community have an idea to look at what's available as something less than what's been proposed, or less than the maximum and more than the 5. And the interpretation of the council is that we essentially have unlimited, so by going to 14, we've really limited ourselves. I don't find that consistent with the plan. I don't find it consistent with the plan that you're more than 2.5 times taller than what the plan called for. So I would recommend, although we have a motion on the floor, I would recommend that we look at either trying to get this back into the public and let the public have an opportunity to talk about the plan, or we abandon the plan and decide that everything up Orange Avenue that was 10 stories now can go back to 10 stories, because that's what we did. It is as disingenuous to use Burt Harris as a motivation to this as it is disingenuous to open up every special plan that we have. This task of this council is to look at the land use. We asked the community for the land use. We asked the community to tell us what they wanted. We had our staff come in and regurgitate that, bring a plan back, took it back to the community. Community felt, liked it, came back to here, and it created ordinances. It wasn't like it was 1995 that happened. It happened just 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So I just don't believe there's been enough significant change in this plan to warrant this council, to warrant 6 of the 7 of us to go back and take our vote away from what we did 6 or 7 years ago. If that's the case, then using Tony's idea, let's bring the community together. Let's just go ahead and open up the whole thing. Because let's have the community have an input, because that's what we said before. Doing this way doesn't give the community a chance to have an input. And for that, I'm deeply sorry. I see both sides of the issue. And I hate always, I shouldn't say this, I've been opposed to Becky on a couple of occasions, Becky, so I'm not, you're individually very talented, and I don't want this to look like I dislike you under any circumstances. We just don't agree on this issue. And in my case, I want to side with the community, with our staff's recommendation, with our ordinances that were brought in front of us. And from that standpoint, I'd like to see us deny, I guess accept the appeal would be an option, and then and maybe look at an idea of can we do 9 stories there? And if we can do 9 stories, put that there. If they can't do 9, then let's let them go back to the community and convince the community what they can do and let the community have greater input. That would be the recommendation that I would make, but there's a motion on the floor.
Mayor, may I just add something else?
Let me go to Commissioner Sheehan, then I'll come back to you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor. And I asked if the property owner was noticed, and they were. So I did ask, that was one of the first questions that I asked. So I share Commissioner Stewart's concern that we're playing let's make a deal on the dais at 14 or 5 stories. I mean, I think it does need to go back for more discussion, and I don't think we should make the decision today if we're going to, I think it should be remanded back to the public process. And I feel very strongly about this area. I walk this area every single day, and I'm not against development. There's lots of redevelopment that's happening in this area, but this is about compatibility. This will be visible across the lake. All these residents that came here today, this is going to be visible across the lake from their properties because I walk this every single day, and I know how high this would be, and this would impact them. Ivanhoe Row is a charming anchor, and they did a special plan to preserve it. And even the folks that own Ivanhoe Row had let go some of their property rights because they wanted to preserve the character of this area. Height is an appropriate restriction, size, mass, and scale are appropriate restrictions for this city council to make. These are all appropriate considerations. And there is lots of infill in this area already. We had the yard, we have had the lake house, we've had, it's not in my district, but like I say, I walk by these every single day. There is already a lot of infill in this area already. And I understand your concern, Commissioner Stewart, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't want to throw out the special plans because I know how much they add to the area. I've seen the changes it's made along Mills Avenue, and I agree, and I really believe in the special plans. And to say that special plans are only to stop redevelopment is nonsense. I've welcomed the redevelopment that's happened in my district and Commissioner Stewart's district that I walk by every single day because I can go get an ice cream at Kelly's and all these things, but it brings in, you bring in good retail and everything like that. But I do believe that there are some reasonable concerns as someone who walks in this area every day, that there are some very dangerous concerns with doing a road diet on a road where we're going to be adding this much height and this much density. And I don't think that's an inappropriate concern. I'm already almost playing Frogger, and where the lady said her son got hit, I almost get hit every single day. So I do think we need to be looking at the safety and all of those other issues. We do need to look at the road. We do need to look at access. When we did Mills Park, there's more than one way in and one way out of Mills Park. This is only going to have one way in and one way out on what was basically going to create a 2-lane road with an FDOT project. So I don't agree that this is compatible, and I do think that the neighbors have a just cause to come here today and express their concerns. And I think that there is, to say that we have to go unlimited or nothing, I'm tired of being told that we have to have unlimited or nothing. Why can't we have things that are compatible? Why does this poor gentleman have to have a 2-story next to 175 feet? Oh, that's just the way it is, when we already did put a special plan in. So I don't think that we have to say it's always the market. Why can't we have nice things? And why can't we have a special plan? And why can't we care like these residents really do? You know what? It's a great thing to have residents and neighbors who care as much about this neighborhood as this neighborhood does. These are people that I know. These are people I walk by their houses every single day. And they do have a right to be cared about, and they do have a right to be listened to. And I feel very strongly about that. I have every affection for the property owner. We've worked together for many, many years on community projects. But at the same time, I don't understand why good people can't get together and come up with a compromise as opposed to have there's this lose-lose situation. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Can I say something?
Yeah, you're up.
These are all friendly discussions, and I appreciate that. This is not spot zoning. The zoning is not changing. All we're doing, and let's look at this, everything's staying the same. The only thing we're opening the door for discussion is the height. And yes, there's going to be an opportunity to be discussed. That's all we're doing. Nothing else. Everything else is staying the same way. We're just opening the door to discuss the height with the community, rediscuss it again, in case we missed something last time, which it seems like we did. And that's all it is. So I don't know why we're so upset about the whole thing. I think it's going to be fine for everybody.
Okay, so I want to Roy make sure that procedurally we're on the right place, because I offered an amendment without objection to Commissioner Ortiz's motion. So what I would like to do is, just bear with me for a second. Commissioner Hill, would you withdraw your second?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz, would you withdraw your motion? Roy, would you state the motion that we need to adopt based on the discussion we've just had?
Yes, and also based on the amendment, the friendly amendment that you proposed?
Yes.
Okay. There would be a motion to deny the appeal, accept the minutes from MPB, approve the actions of MPB with the revision that this property stays within the plan and that there is a height limit of 14 stories imposed on this property within the special plan. And then to direct staff to prepare an ordinance accordingly. Now, the original recommendation, we needed to do 2 ordinances because there was an LDC amendment and there was a GMP amendment. With what we're doing now today, we only need to bring 1 ordinance back, which will be the LDC amendment. There'll be 2 hearings. There'll be plenty of time for more discussion, but that would be the motion at this point.
Is that your motion, Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes, sir.
And a second.
Commissioner Hill, second. All right, motion and a second. Commissioner Stewart.
Roy, help me in process. So there is also a master plan approval that is,
Yeah, that would be the approval of the minutes approves the master
Master
plan,
plan.
because
So
that
yes,
was not
sir.
appealed. It was just the
trying
LDC
to
and
keep
GMP.
comments about the plan and its height. Now, all of a sudden, the issue of the current building with transportation and appearance and all those kind of issues are really within the master plan. So if you don't like the design of the plan, do you deny, do I oppose the master plan when it comes forward? I mean, you're asking me to accept the minutes, but I don't like the master plan, even if it came forward.
Yep. Well, the master plan, again, was not appealed. It doesn't mean you couldn't say I'm voting no on approval of the minutes for the master plan. But it was not appealed, so it's not before council today on that particular issue. We've certainly had times in the past where commissioners have said, I'm approving the minutes, but I'm voting no on this particular item in the minutes. If you want to handle it that way, you could. The master plan is consistent with what we're approving today. It's because the height's 14 stories, and I believe it's consistent with the rest of the special plan, Elizabeth. I think that's the case. So the only issue that is not consistent with the special plan is the height, and now it will be consistent with the special plan because we are modifying that particular requirement. So the master plan should be consistent with the special plan as we are modifying it here today. It doesn't mean you can't vote no on the master plan minutes, but it should be consistent with what we're doing.
Master plan minutes have come.
They're here today, too.
That's right. It's part of the
Yes.
same process, right?
Okay, but you should be a no.
I am definitely a no. I just want to make sure. I want to know which no is my vote for a no.
Okay. All right, further discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, I got it 5-2, motion carries. And that concludes that concludes the agenda business for the City Council meeting. Ed, could you get us prepared for general appearance?